welcome back to the Silly Points podcast. I'm Suraj and I'm joined with Aayush and Rishi. And yeah, we're finally back. It's been around a month, I think. Our last one was the test final series, World Test Championship. And yeah, we're going to be covering the England and India series that's upcoming starting on August 4th. And first venue is Nottingham. And yeah, we're just going to be doing our typical talks just about the lineups and predictions on who's going to win and go from there. Yeah, before we get into that, Rishi, how's cricket been for the past few months or past month? That's the last time we talked about it.
It's been all right. It's been a bit of a grind. Been practicing a lot, 2 games every weekend. My form it's been all right. Sometimes I've scored, been decently consistent with the ball. Last weekend was fun. I was playing in our A division and we played against Sami Aslam's team. So if anyone for anyone who doesn't know, Sami Aslam, the former Pakistan Test opener, he's moved to the US. He's playing the new minor league competition here, and he's playing in our local league. He actually lives like 10 minutes away from me. So yeah, we played against his team. He scored 77. I took the catch on the batter to dismiss him. It could have been 150 plus. He was it was really fun actually watching him bat. I bowled a little bit to him. Luckily I didn't have to bowl way too much. He was hitting everyone though very nicely. But yeah, clean player, hella chill guy too. We were talking about girls. We were talking about vacation and US and stuff. So yeah, that was fun.
Cool.
We got smashed, but it's cool. There's a lot of these
Good experience.
imported players have been coming in for this new minor league, which is starting this weekend actually. So yeah, there's a lot of international stars. Dane Piedad, Corey Anderson, Sami Aslam, Shayan Surya, the former Sri Lanka player. He's also playing in the local league here in the Bay Area. I learned today Cameron Akmal's playing in one of the Austin teams. So yeah, it's pretty cool. A lot of players I saw on TV that I never thought I'd get the chance to play with or see, or at least see in this country. They're playing here. But yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I think we can just get straight into it. We can sort of just walk through our lineups. There's a couple of conversations about like Pujara, Rahane, our openers, and yeah, we'll just go from there. That sounds good.
Yeah, let's start with England first, right? So
yeah.
Obviously this is obviously another test. This is the first test series I think of the new World Test Championship cycle. So right, so it's the first. It's probably India's already most difficult assignment within their first 2 years. England's not a place India has had great success in. Ever since I've started watching cricket, India in England has been 4-0, 3-1, 4-1. So it's not been a great place for India to tour in. They've mainly the batting has always struggled, especially against the seaming ball. Jamie Anderson and Stuart Broad have always been able to torture the Indian batsmen. So I think we can start first with the England squad. So obviously this is a quarantine time, COVID time, so squads are a bit extended. In England have named a squad for the first 2 tests. So I think the one thing is, if you remember from when England toured India in 2016, there was one bright young kid who everyone thought would be England's opener for the next decade, but he fell off the face of the earth into county second 11 cricket, and now he's finally back. That's Hasib Hamid, who scored a century against the Indian team in the warm-up match, and he's back in. He's contending for that number 3 spot, which is contested between him, Zach Carley, who had a poor series against New Zealand and has been pretty poor in the past 1 year outside of that one big innings against against Pakistan. Then Johnny Bairstow's back in the team. There's no Chris Wokes or Jofra Archer due to injury. Moeen Ali is still missing. I'm not sure why. But otherwise, it's a full strength Indian team. But Butler is back. Sam Curran is back. They have batting options in Dan Lawrence, Ollie Pope, Dom Sibley, Rory Burns. Ben Stokes is finally back as well. We saw how crucially he is to the England team when he was not there in the England series. It really ruined their balance. Mark Wood as well. So that's their squad for the first 2 tests. Ayush, do you have any thoughts? Who do you think should go for that number 3 spot? That number 6 spot I think is open. England's bowling attack.
Yeah, so I think one thing that England should be happy about is they've added some more experience, right? I think Ben Stokes wasn't in the squad for the New Zealand series. He's going to add a bit more depth down in the middle order. Bairstow, he's not been in the best of form in tests, but I think he's a really good player. I think he definitely should fit into the lineup. Probably in place of Daniel Lawrence, I'd say, right? Or do you guys think he'll kind of stay there?
I think Dan Lawrence. I would give Dan Lawrence the extended rope right now. I think he played decently well against New Zealand. Looked good in India too. So the thing is, Dan Lawrence was 5, Ollie Pope was 6, or the other way around, I think, because Ben Stokes was missing. So I think one of those 2 will be omitted.
Yeah.
One of them. I
Because for
think
me, it's a matter of how well do England's top three play India's bowlers. Because if you look at the top three, besides Rory Burns, Sibley's played a decent amount of Test cricket, but they're still all fairly new. I mean, nobody's like Alistair Cook level, and I think if India can make those inroads early on, it's going to put a lot of pressure on Root and Stokes lower down the order.
so. Who do you have at number three? Because
Number
Zach
three,
Crawley is
I'm
the
gonna
incumbent right.
try. Yeah, I'd go with Hasib as of right now, based on form. I think he either have him as an opener, but I don't think they're gonna take Burns or Sibley out. So I think they could go with Hasib at three and then Root at four.
I think Zach Crawley. I'd give him the first two tests. I think I'll give Zach Crawley number three of the first two tests. Hamid's there. He's young. He'll probably, if the top three isn't working, I think he could fit anywhere into one of those spots. So I think I'd
I
probably
think that sixth spot, like you said, is up for grabs for him, from Dan Lawrence especially, because
I think Dan Lawrence deserves 6 over Ollie Pope.
he deserves it for the first test, but and first and second most likely. But seeing how he plays, I think that's where Hasib can fit in.
No, but
At number six,
Hamid's a
Hasib's
top
an
three batter.
opener, right? I think
Yeah.
he'd be kind of wasted as kind of a number six batsman because he's more new ball, you know.
Yeah, and we saw what James Bracey, what it is to play these top order batsmen at number 6 role. Hamid is definitely contending for that 3 role. I actually disagree. I don't think Johnny Bairstow deserves to be in the England squad at all. He should go play the 100. He should go be the best white ball batsman England has ever had, because he definitely is up there. But he's not done. He's not played too much first class cricket since he scored like a million ducks against India in Test series. He's done nothing to rectify the issues he would face against the red ball here. So I don't believe he should be back in the squad. Seems more like kind of like a Jason Roy in 2019 selection. Seems just like, you're just too good of a player, and in the other two formats that we can make you work in this format, but nah. Especially India, right? He has like 6 ducks in his last 10 innings against them, both in India and in England. So I think that was not that. I don't think was a fair selection, unless it was for backup keeper for Butler, because Ben Stokes is still injured for the first 2 tests. James Bracey they're not going with, and Sam Billings is playing the 100. So I think unless he's being looked at as a backup keeper, he should not be anywhere near the 11.
I think one strength that we've always seen from an England squad is the depth in batting versus India, at least. India, if you look at their squad overall, they're like lower order. The tail's extremely long, compared to most test sides. England's always been good at that with like your Stokes and like the all rounders, and then Butler batting deep as well. Yeah, so I think that's the strength of them right now, with especially Curran being added to the squad back.
Yeah, I think
it'll be fun to see him.
Curran slots straight back in. I mean, it's the Indian team. Curran's entire career has been made by the Indian cricket team, right? We know what he did 3 years ago, right?
Mm-hmm.
Curran, I think, with like Ben Stokes back in the team, he'll get the number 5 spot. I don't think and that means you can. England struggled against New Zealand without Stokes. They didn't know whether to go 4 pacers or 3 pacers, 1 spinner. So they omitted Jack Leach for the whole series. So I think Jack Leach should get his spot back. You don't need 4 pacers if Ben Stokes is in the team as well. So they'll go with the 3 pacers. I think Broad and Anderson will start. I think the third one will have to be Sam Curran. I think because Chris Stokes is injured, so he's not in the squad. So that makes the decision fairly easy. I know Ollie Robinson is back in the squad, but I think Sam Curran deserves that number 7 spot. I think he'll be batting at number 8. Josh Butler will be at 7. So Sam Curran at 8, I think, would be the ideal spot for him. And yeah, that'll be interesting to see how if India had more problems with his batting than his bowling 3 years ago. I mean, he's a very effective bowler in these conditions, but batting with the tail will always got those 50, 60 runs extra for England, which was some of the matches were decided by those partnerships he had with the lower order. Yeah. So I think Sam Curran at 8, Leach at 9, Broad 10, Anderson 11. You're playing 4 pacers, including Stokes, and then 1 spinner. You need a spinner in England conditions. You still need 1 spinner. You can't, and it cannot be Joe Root, no matter how much you love him. So.
Thoughts on Best though? I don't think he slots in over Leach, obviously, but I think he should be getting some playing time. As like a young player, this is like crucial time for him to come in, especially in like a big series like this. It's good experience, I think.
I was pretty disappointed actually that Best was in the squad and not Moeen Ali. Don't think Moeen Ali has done anything to lose his test spot. He was pretty good in that 1 test against India, and he has a great record against India in England with the ball and with the bat. In the ball, he changed the series last time. We know what he did in 2014. I think Leach will get the first 2 tests, but I think England should look at adding Moeen Ali into the squad. If in case Leach is not working, maybe Moeen Ali would be a better option there. Especially they'll bring extra batting depth, so that always helps. Especially as an Indian team who does not like teams with long batting lineups.
Is Adil Rashid injured or something? Because I remember he was really effective against India a couple years back.
He doesn't play Test cricket. He doesn't play any. He has nothing. No red. He does not even have a red ball contract. He's not even contention. If
Okay.
England are looking at a leg spinner for their Test squad, it's Matt Parkinson. Matt Parkinson is the number one in red ball right now. Speaking a bit off topic, but have y'all seen the balls Matt Parkinson has been bowling?
Yeah, in the 100, that was beautiful.
In the 100, the ball against Imam ul Haq. Shane Warne was spinning. The last person I saw spinning the ball that much. That was
good.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hope Matt Parkinson has a future in all the England teams. I think they might look at him in the Ashes, but maybe not in English conditions right now. I think they haven't. Leach is good enough right now for that. But Matt Parkinson's a bright young player. I'm excited to see him bowl. Just those ball century contenders.
Right. What do you think the weakest link here is in the England squad?
Top 3. It's got to be the top 3, right?
Yeah.
I mean, Roy Burns is good in England conditions. He was man of the series against New Zealand, but it's just a very weak top 3 facing an Indian team that's pretty good with bowling in top order. You're more confident with the Indian bowling attack with top order bats than middle and lower order. But I think England's top 3 will be under the most pressure. And I mean, we can always. It's a little unfair to also to put the pressure on the top 3 considering this is England conditions. It's not easy for top 3 batsmen compared to a 4, 5, 6 because the ball's always moving way too much here. But their top 3 has been struggled in most conditions, and they're fairly inexperienced. And they're not. None of them are really. No matter what top 3 you go with, you're not really getting top 3 that can really change the game. They're all fairly defensive players. So unless they're scoring big runs, they're not going to have huge impacts on the game.
Yeah.
But the one person, do you also agree with Dan Lawrence at 6 or Ollie Pope at 6? Because Ollie Pope had the 6th position before Dan Lawrence.
I think I would initially start with Ollie Pope. I think, and this is based on the bias I have from seeing Dan Lawrence bat. Most of the innings I saw him bat, he didn't score a lot, so it could be from that. And I've seen Ollie Pope, batting quite well in Test cricket, so I would start with Pope at 6. But I do have I see the point in also having Dan Lawrence. I think he has more match time under his belt in Test cricket, especially.
Yeah, I think Ollie Pope has failed too much now since that South Africa series. I think I'd start with Dan Lawrence. Dan Lawrence. He's got something about him I like. He's got that fight. I thought he played decently well in India when nobody else was doing anything against Akshar and Ashwin. I think I would start with Dan Lawrence. It's a
pretty
5 Test series.
Pretty random idea, but would it be a possibility where they don't play that extra seamer with Sam Curran and have that extra batsman spot? Pope and Lawrence both play because they still have their 3 seamers, 1 spinner, and then Stokes.
No, they'll have 3. No, because then they'll only have 3 seamers.
Wood, Anderson, Broad, right?
No, Wood's not in the
team. We're playing Leach instead of Wood.
Oh, okay, that was a just. Yeah. Okay, got it.
I think if Stokes is third seamer, it's just too much on him. No, I think Stokes is a brilliant bowler, and I remember him being one of the better pacers for England in the last series. But no, I don't think so. Though I do see sometimes if Ollie Pope or Dan Lawrence is not doing that well, I can see Chris Wokes if he's a better batsman coming in, but that'd be too many bowling options, I guess.
And plus, I like having Sam Curran because I think historically Indian batsmen have been a little weaker against left arm bowling. Amir in 2017, I think Mitchell Stark back in 2015. I think Sam Curran picked up a 5-wicket haul in the last 2018 series. So I think having Curran there,
but he got 4 first, 3 first. He's for 8 in edge best and changed the game.
Mm-hmm. I think it's a good option, and he's such a dynamic player. Like I think he's kind of like a Hardik Pandya, right? I mean, he contributes sometimes with the bat, sometimes with the ball, but he's always active on the field. So I think it's just a good inclusion to have.
It's a shame we don't have the luxury. It would have given the classic why Sam Curran is like the best England player of all time talk. But to me, he's a bits and pieces player who just loves India. But I think there's no debate on Sam Curran's position.
Yeah.
For sure. I think if anyone was to be dropped, it would have to be one of those extra batsmen. Those are the ones who are definitely like clinging on their spots barely.
Do we know if they're doing like the rest and rotation policy?
No.
This looks like a full strength squad outside of Chris Wilkes, I think.
No. In terms of like resting Broad one game and then bringing in Wood instead of Broad, like would they be doing that?
I'm pretty sure some article I read, the coach said they're not doing that for this series.
No, I cannot see Broad and Anderson playing all 5 tests. at this stage of their careers, no ways. They're definitely playing the first 2 tests, and then it'll be like a we'll see this game by game perspective. But let's be honest, they have 5 tests here. It's not that spread out. It's within a 1-month cycle, and then you have the Ashes, and they want both of them fit for as many matches. I don't think Braun and Anderson are playing all 5, but if they're available and they're not, and nothing happens, I think they'll play the first 2 tests for sure.
Yeah, I think they'll look to go, for the win. Like initially, if you can get India on the back foot in the first 2 tests, then you can afford to, sit up Broad and Anderson, one by one for the upcoming tests.
Yeah, and I mean, Chris Wilkes is as good of a bowler as Broad Anderson in the condition. So if he gets fit by the 3rd test, I think Chris Wilkes for one of them would be a very easy swap. There's Ollie Robinson too, who did pretty well on his debut test. If their wicket's a bit flatter, Mark Wood would be a better option, but I don't think Mark Wood is honestly that good for bowler in these conditions. I think Ollie Stone's a lot better, but I think he's out for a long time with injury. So yeah, we can move on to the Indian team.
Yeah. Rohit. The big thing is for the openers, Gill is out, right? He left a while ago.
Gill is injured.
Shin splints or something.
He's out of the series. The squad is not too different from the World Test Championship. They just extended it. Prithvi Shaw is back in squad. Sky is in the Test squad. They've added a few more net bowlers. Abhimanyu Eswar and a domestic beast is there as an opening option too. But I think the only big thing is I don't think India know too much about Ishant Sharma's fitness right now either. They haven't confirmed he's available for the first test. He did not play the warm-up match. Rahane
I'm not gonna lie, I'd rather see Suraj over Ishant, because I don't know, Ishant wasn't very exciting to watch in the Test Championship for me at least.
He bowled pretty well. What are you saying?
Bowled well, but he wasn't.
It was Bumrah that bowled the worst.
No, Bumrah, of course, I totally agree with that. But I'd still like to see Suraj play instead of Ishant.
I think in that 5 test series, I don't think you're going to see all 3 of them. They're not going to see the 3 same bowlers. Suraj is definitely going to feature in this series. But yeah, but that, I mean, obviously the first convo I wanted to bring up, was openers. I mean, Rohit will open. I think we can all agree Mayank should get that spot. Like, he's been backup for a while now.
Yeah.
He deserves his spot
back. Opening right away. I think they have him back in the team as, kind of they'll slowly bring him back. And he batted really well in the last few matches that he played, but I see them opening with Mayank initially.
Yeah. Mayank is, I think for Mayank's sake, he would just hope those technical issues that were kind of exposed in Australia have gone away, because these are the most difficult conditions, and Anderson and Broad will test your technique. And if those technical problems still are there, then you might have to look at other options. But another interesting factor is Rahane is not fit either, but we don't know if he's available or not for the first test. But KL Rahul scored a great 100 for India in the World match. He scored it in the middle order. He also kept in that match, but obviously Rishabh Pant will don the gloves. But is KL Rahul an option too at number 5? Rahane is
Sky too, if Rahane is not.
I think KL Rahul will take the first.
KL Rahul will take it, but that's the other option, right? Because if Rahane is not fit, then you have Rahul that slots in most likely, and then Sky.
Hari's ahead of Sky as well for test matches.
Who is?
Probably
Hari.
Right?
Squad too.
Yeah, I don't see Sky getting a game this series.
Yeah, I can't see Sky getting a game at all. I was shocked. I thought
they also have Saha as well.
Yeah. Sure, he's not getting another game for the rest of his life.
What was that also relevant? Rishabh wants us to break down for Saha to play a game.
Yeah, I have no clue why they have him, Rahul, and Saha in the squad.
Yeah, I mean, he's obviously keeping cover. I don't know if India would trust KL Rahul to be a full keeper in a test match. He's never done that, but he's just cover for Rishabh Pant. But I think KL Rahul was an interesting topic. They could also use. He was an opener. His last innings in England was 100, but it was after he scored. He failed in the first 4 test matches before that. But can you see KL Rahul coming into the test team? If all players are fit, is that an option?
Yeah, I mean, for if all players are fit.
Yeah.
I mean, definitely for at least one of the matches, right? He has to, because what would be your order? It'd be Rohit, Agarwal, then Pujara, Kohli, and then that's where Rahane, and then what, Pant right after that?
Yeah, but now that leads me to the other debate. Hold up, just pause.
Yeah.
Can y'all hear that?
Yeah.
It's really loud.
It's loud, yeah.
Dude, how do you turn off iMessage notifications? I logged off.
You can just turn off. You can do not disturb, right? That should turn it off.
This is someone. I hate this. Someone will text, like if you're free tomorrow, and then it's just 20 likes. Okay.
All right.
Yeah. So the reason I bring up the KL Rahul convo is I wanted to also talk about India's combination. So after the World Test Championship, a lot of people criticized the bringing in 3 seamers and 2 spinners combination. They said, no, this shouldn't have worked. Jadeja barely bowled in the match. What's the point in these conditions, having 2 spinners when you have a great backup option in Suraj? But the other side of the argument is India is one of the weakest tails in the world. Like somebody put an article on Cricket Info. Their bottom 3 is literally the worst tail. Like it's worse than Zimbabwe. Like they cannot score runs for their life. So, and Siraj is a classic tail ender as well. He doesn't really know how to bat either. So, do you see Jadeja still being in this team or Ashwin, or do you still have both in your first in the first test, or would you bring in a 4th pacer, or would you bring in an extra batsman? That extra batsman's KL Rahul. That's why I'm bringing up his point.
Well, I think between Jadeja and Ashwin, I think it really matters on if you're looking at the batting or bowling aspect. Because Jadeja, I think, Ashwin is a good batsman, but Jadeja has improved a lot in the last couple of years. I mean, he's scoring a lot in T20 cricket. Test cricket, he scored a couple of centuries as well, and good 50s too. So I think they could have Jadeja at 7 or 8, depending on where they put punt. And I think, was Ashwin that effective last time in 2018? Did he take a lot of wickets?
Yeah, he got a 7 in one match, so the match India should have won. Then he got injured, but he played a match with injury, which severely impacted his bowling. But we saw the World Test Championship. I don't think we have to look at 2018. We saw the World Test Championship final. He was absolutely brilliant with the ball. It wasn't even spinning, but he was still getting wickets. So there's no doubt that Ashwin
They don't have Pandya this series, and he provides a lot with the bat. So I don't see Jadeja not playing initially. I think they need the batting for sure.
Yeah,
but I don't know if they can fit in Ashwin and then also.
But yeah, Rishi's point is that you can have the batting also with just Rahul, because Jadeja didn't bowl a lot anyways.
Right.
So it sort of comes down to who's a better bat.
Mm-hmm.
Or more consistent.
I actually don't know if Rahul. These days I actually fully believe that Jadeja is a better batsman than a lot of the sole batsmen in the Indian team. Like we even in the warm-up match he got a couple 50s as well. He saved India too. I mean, KL Rahul scored 100, but Jadeja scored runs in Australia. He scored runs in England last time in one innings. He's scoring everywhere. I actually think I think big flaw in the argument is you can't just look at Jadeja. Jadeja has a spot in the team, I think, just as a pure batsman too. And he just happens to be the 5th bowler. And a damn good 5th bowler too, right? One of the top 3 spinner in the world. So
he's in like the exact same position as Stokes for India. That's it.
Yeah.
They're like,
in fact, I could argue that Jadeja is as good as Stokes in the last couple of years, right? So maybe. I would still be picking Jadeja at the 7th spot. But the other argument is extend the batting even more, have Jadeja be the only spinner, replace Ashwin with a batsman, have 4 bowlers only. But then
it really depends on how. I don't think they'll do that for the first test, especially considering Bumrah wasn't good at all in the Test Championship final. I think they want to see, if you start seeing that Bumrah, Shami, Siraj, these bowlers are taking wickets, they're being consistent, then you can afford to have that additional batsman, right? Because I think historically, if you look at India's issues in England, the bowling has done fine. I mean, last time around, I don't think England scored 300 that many times. They were usually put down below 300. So I think if you have a trio of Siraj / Sharma, Bumrah and Shami all bowling well, you can have another batsman. I don't think that's an issue. Especially if you have a collapse up top. I think it's really important for India to have that tail so that they can, kind of extend those runs out towards the latter end of the innings.
So the 2 flaws I have in your argument there is you're saying Bumrah did not bowl well. So that was the problem, right? Bumrah didn't bowl well. So they only had 2 pacers really to exploit the swing conditions against New Zealand, right? So if they had a 4th seaming option, they could have had 3 pacers at least. If Bumrah bowls well, it actually makes it easier for them to have 2 spinners because then they don't have to worry about having a 4th seaming option. And also restricting England under 300 in English conditions is not a big factor. Games in England don't tend to go over 300. It's usually 200 plays 200 max, right? Indian bowler was good last time, but they did have that common tail end problem, right? They had a problem dismissing Sam Curran, Chris Wokes, Joss Butler, Moeen Ali at the end too. So that also is another thing, like the death bowl, not the death bowling, the tail end bowling. They have a problem in the tail end both ends. Their bowlers can't bowl tail enders out, and their bowlers can't bat their tail enders. So they have that issue too. So that's my only problem with you saying under 300. That it's not every game will be under 300. That's not par here. The par is like 200 here.
Right.
And they
Right.
can't.
Do you think
Yeah.
they need the bowling cover? Like, do you think having an additional bowler would help them restrict more than having an additional batsman would have them score more? Like, I guess that's what I'm wondering.
I
Because
feel
if you have another bowler, yes, it offsets, Boomerang or somebody having a bad day. But is that more valuable than having another batsman that can score, potentially more runs?
personally, I personally think you got to see who's in form and pick your three best pacers. Okay, you have Siraj in the mix. If Bumrah is not bowling too well before, you just go with Siraj, Ishant, and Shami. Assuming Ishant is fit. It's assuming all of them are fit. If Ishant is not fit, then it's gonna be Siraj, Shami, Bumrah very easily, right? But otherwise, here's the thing: is Jadeja is good enough you can consider Jadeja to be the extra batsman who's batting at 7. You have a specialist batsman at 7 who could bowl too, right? Then you also look at the 8th position is Ashwin. Now, if this was a team full of right-handers, like the England team full of right-handers, then I think you can make the argument of not having Ashwin and putting in another batsman or a fourth pacer. Another batsman. You don't want to extend the tail unless that fourth pacer is Charlotte Duckworth because he's a decent number 8. But England got Rory Burns. They have Ben Stokes.
Curran.
They have Sam Curran. So that's 3 lefties that India will want to dismiss, right? Like 2 of them have fairly good records against India too, right? Ashwin has great records against Roy Burns and Ben Stokes. So I think Ashwin needs to get a spot just because he's just too good of a bowler, even in non-spinning conditions, right? Like he dismissed Latham, Conway, all in that World Test Championship test. So I think it's essential for them to. I think I'm sticking with that same 11 from the World Test Championship final and seeing how it works. If one of the bowlers is off, then you got to replace them. If Ashwin and Jadeja are not as effective, maybe you can look at a Charlotte Thakur to be like that Hardik Pandya player. We saw Charlotte Thakur can bat, right? He might not be as explosive of a batsman as Hardik Pandya is, but he's a fairly good bowler and he can definitely hold a number 8 position. But I'm not starting with him. And I definitely think having 4 pacers, including Siraj, Bumrah, Ishant, and Shami is just not a feasible idea with how bad all 4 of them are at batting.
Yeah, so what I'm getting from this is just keep the World Test Championship squad, and then for the first test match, and then from there make your tweaks as necessary.
Yeah, and conditions based too. Yeah, where's the first match?
Nottingham, and then the second one's Lords.
Okay. Yeah, Lords, it might not be wise to go with 2 spinners. It's not a place. Last time India made a mistake and went with Kuldeep and Ashwin in a game where it rained and Jimmy and Wokes bowled India out for 100 twice. So in those conditions, you might want to go for that seaming all-rounder.
Yeah. This looks to be a pretty competitive side, 2 competitive sides, right? I mean, England hasn't been the brightest of test sides, I think purely because they haven't faced like the top quality teams in the past few years. Past year.
They haven't put out a top quality side. They haven't put out their
that
first
especially
in a while too against New Zealand, against India, last series that they've lost.
Right.
There's one huge point we have to talk about India too now. Pujara and Rahane, like they're obviously the 2 most senior batsmen in the team after Kohli. Are they under some pressure, right? They did not do well in the World Test Championship final. They've not been scoring that much, right? Pujara, since the 2018 Border Gavaskar Trophy, he's not scored runs since outside of those 2 innings in Australia, those 2 final day defensive innings. And then Rahane has not scored too many runs outside of that since that MCG 100, right? Are they under some pressure here? Or do you think Kohli will back them and give them all 5 test matches? Which he said, like he's always backed them, but their stats don't show that they deserve that backing. This is now all 2 of them. Both of them, this is their 3rd tester of England, and they don't have great success here in a while.
I mean, Pujara for sure, I think, at least in my mind, is under a decent amount of pressure purely just because he hasn't scored at a strike rate that's required of a number 3 batsman. He's still an amazing batsman. You can't deck him for that. But yeah, I think I saw a pretty interesting article on Crick Info talking about his footwork specifically. We know he's pretty solid off the back foot, but it was specifically talking about how his indecisiveness about whether to come up on the ball, because typically what we've seen is he's really good at advancing it against spin down the pitch and then playing it over the spinner's or the bowler's head. But what he has been doing, typically what helped him in the past was moving back in the box and moving down the crease and then playing like that typical Pujara cut shot, which he hasn't played as well. And there's specific stats on that, which was pretty cool. I don't want to go too far into that, but yeah, I think sort of reverting back to like the like most recent version that actually worked for him might help in that situation. But just the fact that these articles are even coming out does show that Pujara is under some like fire from the press mainly, and I'm sure every fan is looking to him to have some like breakthrough eventually. But
I mean,
yeah,
should have mentioned in the last podcast, Pierre doesn't go on his back foot anymore, right?
exactly.
In England, the scoring opportunities are on the back foot, right? And the front
Mhm.
foot ball is moving too much, and you can't really throw your hands at the ball, which is a good thing for Jar. He doesn't really throw his hands; he plays soft hands. But on the back foot, it's where you score your runs. Kohli realized this in 2018. That was a big factor in him changing his game around. But Pujara doesn't put any pressure there on the back foot, and on the front foot, they'll bowl there, until he'll eventually get out. And things, even if he's faced 100 balls, he's only scored 20 runs. So which is why his series average these days tend to be 20, 25, maybe 30. But I think like he's not a player with a great record in England. He's played there twice. He just has one century. And if you take that century out, he's a pretty poor record in this country.
I don't. Yeah, go ahead.
Rahane 2 record in England is pretty poor if you take out that Lord's 100 from 7 years ago. He was good 7 years ago, but 3 years ago he wasn't good enough. He just had a couple innings here and there, but neither have really stepped up that much in these conditions, and they both have played county cricket now, so they both have experience in playing here. Even though these are difficult conditions for batting, you would expect them to at least try to average 30 plus in the series, right?
Mm-hmm.
Especially Pujara, whose job is to defend the middle order from Anderson and Broad. You don't want to fresh Anderson and Broad with the new ball bowling to Kohli, Rahane, Pant early on. That's like the key for him here.
Right.
You guys see any like so for Rahane, I do see other options. We talked about Bihari. He can slot in a number 5. Potentially, you could debut Surya Kumar Yadav. I don't think it's going to happen, but he is an option. If Pujara doesn't have a good seat or a good first couple tests, let's say he doesn't get the backing. How do you move the batting order around? Do you have Kohli at 3? I think that's too early for Kohli. Who do you have at number 3 if Pujara doesn't play well?
You just have to put one of the openers, the backup openers, right? So you can get Prithvi Shaw as an option. KL Rahul is an option because he is an opener. There's also that Abhimanyu Eswaran could be an option at 3, but obviously all 3 of the names I just mentioned, none of them bat like Pujara. They're all pretty attacking players. They're all stroke makers, but no, there's no real backup for the type of batsman Pujara is. Nobody in this Indian team is like that, so. Right. It'll have to be like a different type of number 3. But I don't.
I was hoping to see Gill actually stay and Prithvi still come over, and have like the Prithvi opening and then Gill playing at that 3 spot, which is probably what we're going to see eventually in the future. It would have been nice to get like a preview of that. But
I mean, ideally, if Gill was fit, Mayank could have opened and Gill would have been 3 if that was ever an issue.
Exactly.
Mayank batted at 5 one game in Australia when they were missing the batsman, so. Mm-hmm. He easily would have adjusted 3, or Gill could have gone at 3. I do think Gill would do better a bit lower down in the batting order. Don't see him as a full opener.
I've never liked the idea of Prithvi opening in tests. Like if you saw in Australia, I know there are different conditions, but his footwork was absolutely terrible. I just don't know how you do.
I mean, that's something you can work on, right? So I mean, he's still young. So I mean, that's definitely. I mean, he's definitely seen the criticism and he's probably worked on it. So.
He might have worked on it, but we don't have the evidence for him to be opening against Anderson and Broad. Like that's like, let's be honest, like this is very difficult condition for an opener. If you can average 30 in the series as an opener, you should be proud of yourself, right? A lot of openers fail here. I mean, Devin Conway was like the last overseas opener I saw score a lot of good runs in England opening and batting. He was pretty fantastic, but I mean, if you look at last time, Murli Vijay and Dhawan opened. Their careers ended in that tour. Previously, Murali Vijay and Shikhar Dhawan, even 2014, after that tour, Dhawan's career was ended. Gambhir's tour, his career's ended. Sehwag's career basically ended in 2011 tour. It ends a lot of players' tours here. David Warner's basically still gets a lot of heat from his 2019 Ashes tour here. It's not an easy place to open against these two bowlers in these conditions, right?
Mm-hmm.
So Prithvi Shaw is just too loose a player. You really want, even players who were fairly defensive, like Dom Silly, don't even have the best of records here. So you really want to look at a player who can at least shield the middle order. You still want them coming in at 10 for 3. That's really your job right here. Which is why I think Pujara, this might not be the worst place for him to play a lot of balls, right? If he's able to play a lot of balls, get the shine off the ball, and Kohli, you can see increased aggregate runs for Kohli, Rahane, and Pant, then you could say Pujara's doing his job. But on the back of the mind, Pujara would also want to be scoring some runs himself, right? Like, he averages 48. His job is not to average 30 and play 100, 200 balls every innings.
Yeah.
How do you guys see Rishabh Pant doing? Obviously, he debuted in England 2018. He scored his first 100 there, which was like the rival of Mr. Pant. And then World Test Championship, he got a lot of flack for the shot he played in the second innings, but he still top scored, got 44. So you guys see him doing well in these conditions, or is he a bit too aggressive of a player? Do you think he'll adjust well?
No, I think he's best when the ball is coming to his bat as fast as possible. I think whenever the ball like flies off of his bat, that's probably the best conditions for him. And he's going to be coming in the middle order when, I mean, the ball's either like it's the new ball, hopefully when he's coming in for India, or yeah, he's just coming in at a time where the ball's just not swinging at all. If anything, it's going to be reversing. So I think he's coming in at the perfect time where he doesn't really have to play spin from Leach, and he gets to play that pacer, those pacers late in the day.
How's that perfect?
Yeah,
him not playing Leach.
He's better against pace than he is against spin. In my mind.
He destroyed Dak Leach in turning conditions. You think he'd love to play him here? I think anytime the spinner comes on in conditions, Indian bats will be happy.
As an Indian batsman, sure, yes.
The left arm spinner too. Like, he's turning it into him.
Fair.
You screwed up first.
I'm going based off of what the last series when he was in England, he was playing better against pace. That's what I remember. So I mean that might have changed also over the years, but yeah, okay.
Well, and I think what I like about Pant is he's except for maybe Rohit Sharma, he's a very different batsman than Pujara, Kohli, and Rahane. He does take the fight on, and early in his innings as well. So I think he's gonna have a good series, and he can be, in my opinion, kind of the Sam Curran of this team, right? If he can chip in with 40, 50 quick runs, that's value in England. I mean, he doesn't need to score centuries. If he does score, that's amazing. But let's say, India are chasing 240, they're at 200, he scores 30, 40, that's big right there. That's a huge deal. It also reduces the pressure on Jadeja and Ashwin, right? So I think he can really be an impact player here. He doesn't need to be the 100 scorer. He can score 30s, 40s. But that aggression, when the ball is 60, 70 overs old, I think that's really important.
Yeah, I actually I fully agree on that. This is the one place where counterattacking innings work best here in England conditions, right? Because that can make a 180 score go to 210. This is not like Australia or India where flat wickets you want to scoring big hundreds, but counterattacking innings, like what he was trying to do in the World Test Championship, like he got that 40 pretty nicely and quickly, but he threw it. He got out at the most unfortunate time for India. But innings like that can really change the game. I think similar to what Joss Butler or Sam Curran might try to do if the Indian bowling, if they do come in early against solid Indian bowling. Yeah. What about Rohit? Y'all think Rohit will do well? This is his first time opening in England, and he doesn't have the greatest overseas record still. I think he's looked good in Australia. He looked decent in the World Test Championship final too. Didn't get a big score, but can you see him now? This might be the biggest challenge he's ever faced as a batsman.
It's hard not to see him doing well because he's just that consistent player that we always see. So I mean, yeah, we'll just have to see. There's not much we can predict on that, I think. Yeah, I'd like to see him do well.
Just quickly let's go around. Who's your guys' first three bowlers for India? First, three pacers for the bowling, and if you have a fourth pacer, you could say that.
This is assuming Ishant is playing, right?
Assuming Ishant's fit, yeah.
Okay, then I'm not picking Ishant. Siraj, Shami, and Bumrah.
And then you have Jadeja and Ashwin?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think if India are saying that Jadeja and Ashwin fit into their best test team that they can play in the World Test Championship final, then I think there's no reason to not play those two against England. If that's their best team, then I would play Jadeja and Ashwin, and then I would go with um, Bumrah, Shami, and I would go with Ishant. I think early on you need the experience. If he's not firing, then I think Siraj is a good option, but I think you need the experience early on.
Yeah. Ishant's too good against lefties. England have 3 lefties that can change the game. Ishant, Shami, Boomer. I'm 100% sure Siraj will feature in this series, and I'm sure he'll do well. So this is the great conditions for him bowling, but I think at the start you'll go with the 3 that bowled pretty well last time in England too.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've covered both the teams now, so time for some predictions. Yeah. Series scoreline, guys?
I think India might be slow starters, so I do see England winning the first one. But I know India bounce back really well every time they lose. So I think, and assuming it doesn't rain out in any of these games, I'm going for I think it'll be 3-2 India in India's favor. I think they have potentially the experience they need to win this time around, especially against that top 3 that England have.
Surge?
3-2 England. Sort of for similar reasons, but it's just the opposite side.
I think India's record in England last 3 tours I just don't see how India can be favorites in the series. So I'm going 3-2 England. If a match is rained out, it'll be 3-1 England.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You can't put confidence on this Indian team to win in England. It's not like the teams have changed so much from that 2018, 2014 tour. It's the same set of batsmen and mostly the same bowling.
Same players, but they've matured though overall.
Yeah, but so has some of the England players. I mean, we didn't see too much of a difference we saw improvement from 2014 to 18, but still the batting is still. I don't see the confidence in Indians' batting lineup to be scoring runs in England. They didn't give that confidence in the World Test Championship final or in the last England, so I just don't see them scoring here.
That's the thing, though. They've had a lot more time playing in English conditions, so that may be a big factor that plays
They
into
still
this.
struggled in the warm-up game, bro.
True.
Without KL Rahul and Jadeja,
warm-up games are a little with a kind of a grain of salt, because I remember in Australia before they beat Australia 3-1 or whatever, they actually let the Australia, I think, Prime Ministers or 11 score like 500 runs against Bumrah and those guys. Like, it was a very, very bad scoreline. I think this was back in the first time around India beating Australia. That practice game did not go well at all. So I think I'm with Suraj on this one. I think they have a bit more experience compared to previous England tours, but I totally see you swinging conditions. It's always going to be tough for Indian batsmen.
Yeah. And I think that I don't see that tail end problem India has in both sides, batting and bowling. I don't see that going away. I see Sam Curran, Broad, Leach torturing the Indian bowlers.
100%. Yeah. Top run score.
So
overall, not for both teams.
I don't think Kohli's gonna have a great series. I don't think Pujara's gonna have a great series. I think Kohli's gonna have an average series. So I'm not going to go with him. He was brilliant in 2018, but he's not been in that same form. I'm going to say Joe Root. I think Joe Root will be England's top run scorer.
Same here. Yeah.
Rory Burns might be second. For India, I think Rohit or Pant will be their best batsmen. I feel like Rohit and Pant have been their best batsmen in the last 7-8 months. So I'm going to say Rohit for India, Rory Burns for England.
Oh, not Root?
No, not Root. I just changed my mind last second.
Yeah, that was
Rory Burns. India has a fairly decent record against Root in the last couple of series. I'm gonna say Rory Burns, and then Root. I think Root will do well. I think Root will do better than Kohli in this series. And then
I think Butler might have a decent series too, especially lower down the order. I think he's a great batsman, especially when the ball's not swinging a lot. He can be a Sam Curran, and I think he has probably more potential than Sam Curran to score those big, 50s, 60s. So I think Butler could also be in contention. I don't know how, and I think he will probably get to bat for most of the innings. I mean, England is in a place where you end up declaring. So, I think he could score a lot of runs.
He changed a couple games. I think he had a pretty good 2018 tour. He changed the 4th and 5th test, so
for sure
he has a good record against India. So that's definitely a solid option. I see England's having the same top 3 issues. I see Stokes, Butler, all of them having to play rescue acts a lot, Root as well. So definitely that middle order. But I do think Rory Burns will do well. I think the other 2 will not.
I think England is always a place where it's, nobody usually has an amazing series. It's usually bits and pieces here and there. Root will score one game, Butler scores another game. So I think it's just a matter of whichever team has more collective, performances over the course of 5 games.
So
What?
every time
Well,
India comes to England, some careers are done. Like last time it was Murli Vijay. Previously, it's been Dhawan's Test career. It happens sometimes to England as well. I remember Sam Robson in 2014's career ended there. Keaton Jennings in 2018's was basically done. Did you see any careers ending? Especially batsmen. It's usually batsmen's career finishes.
Agarwal for me.
He's barely started. Okay, Agarwal has enough
Yeah, I
time.
know. I get it, but no, he's not. I think after this, there's too many options for openers. Yeah, I don't think he's gonna slot back in after this.
Okay, I think Dom Sibley will be done after this series. I don't think they'll have any confidence in him going into the Ashes after
Who else do they have though?
They're counting cricket will turn off enough openers. I'm pretty
Yeah.
disappointed England not put Dawid Malan into their squad. He's been doing fairly well. I thought he should get a chance, but
True. I agree with that. But no, Sibley's will probably end up going to the Ashes purely because of his skill against pace. I mean, spin is the only thing that like
he has no skill.
sort of lacks in.
He doesn't have skill. He just knows how to like walk.
He can play it better than exactly.
But it's still not too much confidence in his batting. I think Indian bowlers are gonna have a lot of fun with Dom Sibley, personally. And for India, I don't think their careers will end, but I don't think we're gonna be I don't think Pujara and Rahane are gonna be permanent fixtures by the end of this series. I think India might have to start looking at the younger players, and Kohli will start leading that new pack. I think he might just start losing that rope he's given Pujara and Rahane. I don't think they're gonna have a great series, either of them.
And speaking of experienced players, I think a lot of pressure might also be on Root this series because I don't know, is his batting under captaincy better than his batting without?
No.
Right?
But that's
been really good this year.
It's been good this year, but I think overall
But that's purely based on like the test series against Sri Lanka. That's it.
Yeah.
And he got a double against
India.
Yeah. I don't know. I think Root needs to lead from the front this series, especially with a top three. If Root isn't firing, I mean, you have then Stokes and Butler. That's about it to score a bulk of your runs. And they've already they lost 2-0 to New Zealand, right? Or what was it?
1-0. They got lucky with the rain.
Right. 1-0 against New Zealand. I think his captaincy has always been a little under the scanner, so he needs to have a good season for sure. I think.
I don't think captaincy is the issue.
I think Root's captaincy will come into debate after the Ashes. We'll see what happens in the Ashes because that tends to define a player. And if he's played 3 Ashes and hasn't won one yet, or captained 3 Ashes and not won it, yeah, we'll talk about it. But it won't be after this series.
Yeah.
Wickets.
Yeah, leading wicket. I mean, Ashwin, I think.
Not Ashwin, not in these conditions. He'll bowl well.
Ashwin, he can. Come on.
He'll get injured.
So consistent.
He'll get injured.
He's gonna get Crawley. I'm pretty sure of that, and then he'll get the lefties most likely.
He'll get injured, so I can't put him as a top wicket taker. He'll play the first 3 tests, and something will happen to him. Happened literally the last 20 overseas series. So
true.
He'll bowl great. I feel like the easy option is Jimmy Anderson. He's always a top wicket taker.
Yeah.
Every time against India, he loves India. He tortures the Indian batsman in India. Imagine what he's gonna do here. As long as the only thing is that's only if he plays all 5 tests though. If he's able to play all 5 tests, easily Jimmy Anderson will be the top wicket taker.
And I think Anderson, I put him ahead of Broad for this series. Broad is more effective against left-handers, as far as I've seen. I mean, David Warner, he had no clue. The ball was seaming out. India only have 1 left-hander, I think, in their top 6, right? And 7 potentially if they play punt that low.
No, they have 2 if you have Ponta GH in the top 7, which is
right. Yeah. But none of their top 5 are lefties, and I think Anderson has a slight edge over righties.
Yeah, I think Anderson's a pretty easy choice. It's a 5-test series in England. Like, that's a pretty easy option, right? It's the only thing really preventing him if he breaks down.
For India, do you think he's definitely gonna? Is the Ashes probably what his last goal is, or do you think he's gonna continue? I mean, it's hard to say, but I'm not sure.
3 years ago, he said there's no way he's returning to play another Ashes, and now. Right. And now he looks like he'll play all 5 tests. So
39 is crazy if you think about it. Like Gale, I can understand as a batsman and as an opener. I mean, it's still amazing that at 40 he's hitting the ball so well. But 39 for a fast bowler and the consistency that he still has, it's insane. It's absolutely insane.
Yeah, no, Jimmy Anderson's will be bowling until he's 70 years old. He's like the Darren Stevens of Test cricket, dude. He's an unbelievable great, dude. He's just a great, and I can't wait to watch him bowl to Kohli this series. I know it was probably one of the best competitions was him bowling a Kohli Cup 3 years ago, and I can't wait to see how Kohli reacts to it this time around for part 3 of the challenge. So
Also, Rishi, I know you're a Kohli fan, so is he gonna break his century streak? I don't think he scored a century at least in the last year and a half.
I already said in this podcast, I don't think Kohli's having a great series. I think he'll average between 30 and 35. I don't, but he's not having a great series. He's not in great form. He hasn't scored it in a long time, and this is not the easiest conditions to regain your form in. So, no.
Makes sense.
That's why I didn't even put Kohli. I think Rohit and Pant will do better than him in run scoring. Yeah. For the Indian bowling, I have I think Shami will be the leading cricketer. I think that unlucky Shami curse from last time will be over, and he'll reap the rewards this time. He was really good in the World Test Championship final. I think if he plays all 5 tests, yeah.
Yeah, cool. Thanks everyone for listening. I know it's been a while, so hope you guys enjoyed this, and we'll be back again for probably the first test match preview or review, not preview. And then we'll see you guys then. Let us know in the comments who your leading wicket taker is and leading run score.
Drop your scoreline. Spread the word. We're trying to get big. We're just a new podcast based in America. A lot of exciting stuff happening in American cricket as well. Minor league cricket starts this weekend, so make sure you stay in tune. That we might drop podcasts on those as well. So definitely stay in tune.
Definitely check us out and pass it along and keep sharing it. Yeah, there'll be a lot more frequent podcasts now, especially with the Ashes, T20, everything. The World Cup coming up and IPL starting up again. We'll see what we do. But yeah, all right. Thanks everyone. See you soon.